We are looking up this weekend and looking over all the big releases, not just Superman, but of course that's where we'll start. And welcome to the Screening Room Podcast.
Are either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie.
It's pretty good.
Well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
He's sorry. You waste our film.
It's so bad!
Welcome in. She is Hope Maddin.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from MaddWolf.com. Yeah, big week. Big week. A lot of talk. Maybe you've been on social media. I know that there's a big movie opening up this week that's getting a lot of chatter, and for some good reasons. It's Superman.
First up in theaters, Superman must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, he soon finds himself in a world that views these as old-fashioned. Superman.
We were psyched. We got to go to the premiere or the early screening in Cleveland, where much of it was filmed, which was super cool.
It was.
And then we've been honest in talking about this movie here this week that we weren't overly excited about it. To be honest,
No.
I mean, neither one of us is big Superman fans, really. That's been fine.
Yeah.
Or big comic book fans, and some of that actually let us discover some characters in this movie that we didn't know about that were really a treat. So in some ways it worked out kind of well, but it's a case where you have to go in open-minded and let the filmmaker prove what they can do. And in this case, James Gunn just proved to us that he came at this with a new perspective, and man, it paid off. We really liked it.
Yeah. One of the things about James Gunn is that he has his films, all of them have a humor about them that is in no way cynical, right? There's something very sincere in his humor, and I think that really suits the character of Superman. And one of the reasons that he never did that much for me, the character, because he's so one-dimensionally wholesome, but in this movie, they make that out to be quite something to be proud of. It's a movie about kindness. But the other thing that I think really helps is that Gunn surrounds him, David Cornsweet, with funny characters who are maybe a little bit less wholesome than him. Our favorite, I think, was Mr. Terrific, who seems like every single person in the entire movie is just on his last nerve.
Yeah. Ed, I think the actor's name is Ed Gathegi, I believe, who was great. And I wasn't familiar. We weren't familiar with this character, I guess, from the comics. And it's a great character. It's a lot of fun. And then you've also got Hawk Girl, played by Isabella Merced, a Cleveland native, actually, who's we've been impressed with back all the way back to Sicario,
and of course Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion is the latest, one of the Green Lanterns, and I'm still murky on the whole Green Lantern character. I guess it changes to a bunch of who can be a Green Lantern, but he is one with a crazy haircut, and he's funny too. So those are good. And then of course you've got Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan here, and here this is a different Lois Lane as well. We both loved Amy Adams' Lois Lane, and we both loved Henry Cavill's Superman, but this is different.
Yeah.
This Lois Lane, first of all, one of the things, two things that's great right from the beginning. Number one, you don't get the origin story of Superman. You get it on screen in like 3 lines of text, and then boom, we're off and running. Yeah. We all know that the origin story. Also, you get the romance of Clark Kent and Lois Lane is already going on. She knows who he is. Yeah. So that's great too. We don't need to go down that road again.
No.
And Rachel Brosnahan is not only a big wig reporter, but she also, by the end of the movie, she gets to take part in the action, which is nice for the character as well. I mean, she's really and literally driving the ship here before we're all done.
And we haven't even mentioned Lex Luthor.
We haven't mentioned Lex Luthor, and we've mentioned a couple times this week to other people that we think this is the best Lex Luthor ever. Like, whoa! I know. Gene Hackman. I know.
No, but the approach here is so spot on. And Nicholas Hoult, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this guy. He's been in so many movies ever since he was a kid, and he's always really good. He's really, really good, and he's always understated. He's exactly what the character needs, and he nails this. He's just perfect.
He really
in
does.
This role. And there are some other really funny characters. There are a lot of characters, but none of them feel wasted or wedged in. There are funny lines, lots of them, but I would not call this a comedy.
No, it's not.
It's not campy.
I don't think it depends on its comedy as much as, say, Guardians of the Galaxy does. It's certainly humorous, and there's some things going on in the background sometimes. And at one point, there's a conversation between Clark Kent and Lois Lane while there's a battle going on outside the window.
That is really
which is very cool. They have to take care of their personal
Yeah.
business here.
Yeah.
While Green Lantern is out there doing stuff. But it does, and it's not silly. It's very grounded in the moment and grounded in the character, I think, and it all worked for me. And David Cornsvet, you may not know him. We knew him only from maybe one film. He was the projectionist in Pearl, which was great.
Things did not go well for him in
So, this has happened a few times when they cast Superman. They get a relative unknown, I guess.
Well, I think Henry Cavill was.
Christopher Reeve, I think, pretty much. And by the way, Christopher Reeve's son has a cameo in this movie as well, which is very nice.
It was exciting for us to see Cleveland because they really showcase Cleveland.
If you're familiar with Cleveland at all, it really looks great. Cincinnati's in there too. And of course, Atlanta, the sound stages where James Gunn operates from, a lot of it was filmed there too. But the downtown stuff, almost all of that was done in Cleveland. It looks fantastic. The action is well paced, looks good. I mean, it's one of those that makes. Well, I think a friend of ours, I read a friend of ours, Scott Woods, made a nice post about it that really echoed how we felt. We didn't really care that much before this movie, and he ended up making us care.
Yes,
and a good filmmaker can do that. And it's gotten a lot of headlines, a lot of social media banter this week because of its political stance. And it's pointed. It is. It's pretty direct. But that's nothing new. That's what cracks me up.
That's what Superman is about. That's what the comic books are about, right? It's just, as many people have pointed out, the difference is that we actually have supervillains now.
Yeah.
So it makes it seem more unusual, but it's a smart movie. And I remember thinking when I saw the first trailer, oh my God, he has a dog. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. By Act 3, I love this dog. I love this dog.
I felt the exact same thing because again, I heard from people that are comic book people, and they said, well, this has a basis in the comics. Okay, great. We didn't know any of that. I just agree that in the trailer it looked pretty silly. But I'm with you. By the end, I was all about the dog.
Yeah.
So
the first act is a little slow.
Yep.
Just a little.
Agreed. Agreed. We were talking with some people on the way out of the Cleveland premiere that felt the same way. In the first, 15 minutes, you're going, I don't know here. Yeah. But then once it picks up, it totally had me. Don't expect a lot of cameos. There's one fun cameo. There's a big
couple.
As far as a character, there's a big star who turns up in a small part that'll catch your eye. And then but as far as superhero cameos, there's at least one I can think of. Yeah. And then there are two scenes. There's one mid-credits, very, very quick, and one full scene, really just for fun at the end, if you want to stick around. But I'll tell you, this is a good step toward a new universe of the DC Comics. I mean, because I know that's what's planned.
Sure.
And this is a really good step forward. It's just a different Superman than we've ever seen. He's more vulnerable. Yeah. This character is more vulnerable than he's ever been, at least on the movie versions that I've seen. Yeah. He's more vulnerable and he's more human.
Yep.
And even though they don't say that famous catchphrase, truth, justice, and the American way, they've changed it, at least in the synopsis there, to human way, because it's such a simple thing. Why should that be controversial about wanting to do good, wanting to be kind? I mean, in the movie, the character doubts himself a lot, but he never doubts his mission.
Right.
He never does doubt his mission. And it is wholesome, but I think you hit on it. It's sincere. Yeah. It's sincere, and that just comes through. And cinematically, it's joyous.
It is. It absolutely
really think
is. It's colorful. It's incredibly well shot, incredibly well edited. We've had some people comment on our YouTube that it's just a guy who makes movies so he can create a soundtrack. And actually, there's less of that in this. But there's a moment at the end when they insert the perfect song from the perfect guy. And I was out of my seat. And so was the 7-year-old kid next to me. We were both so excited about this.
It's a well-done needle drop. It's not, It's nothing like the mixtape of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Not at all. But this one is very well played. Very well played. And we fired it up on the iTunes as soon as we got out the theater. Because you're like, I want to hear that song. And it's organic to the story.
It is.
as well.
And it's one of my favorite songs.
Fun. But yeah, it's really well done. It's a new vision that works for the big screen. It was filmed specifically for IMAX. So I've seen people say, I'm just going to wait till it streams. Well, you can do that, but you're missing out on the experience. I mean, if you're interested at all, get the full experience. And the theater we had those vibrating seats as well. It's almost like you're in a Disneyland ride or something like that. The Dolby Atmos surround sound or whatever, which was pretty cool. But even if you don't have those fun seats, the screen, it looks on an IMAX screen, it looks fantastic. It really does. And it's just totally an immersive experience. And it's not over long. What is it? 2 hours? What am I looking? 2 hours and 10 minutes if you stay till the very end. And it doesn't drag it. Like I said, after that first 15 minutes or so where you're a little bit unsure, things get cooking. And it's just really fun and a great, midsummer blast of superhero fun. And we need that stuff. We need these kind of movies. We need the smaller movies. And we'll talk about some of those too. But I really hope, at least from the word that we're seeing here after the preview screenings last night, it looks like it's off to a great start. I know it's getting a lot of good word of mouth, not only from critics, but from just people who have seen some of the early screenings. So I think, and I hope it's going to do well. And I say well done to James Gunn and everybody involved with Superman. Go see it.
Next up, a tribute to Jaws, the movie that sparked a lasting fascination with the ocean's most misunderstood predator. Jaws at 50, the definitive inside story.
Boy, how long have we been waiting to talk about this?
I know.
We got a chance to see it about a month ago.
Yes.
And they said, no, don't talk about it yet. Okay. Because it just hit streaming, I think, last night. And you can catch it on National Geographic Channel. You can catch it on Hulu. And also on Disney Plus. Because in case you haven't heard, Jaws just turned 50 years old. And this is just like the capper on the birthday celebration.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a movie that we wanted to go on twice as long as it is. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we talk about movies dragging. Boy, this one didn't drag. Let's see more because
it's kind of amazing, honestly, because going into it, especially living with you as long as I have, I didn't think there was any Jaws info I didn't already have. And I don't say that I love that movie. It's a perfect movie. It is a masterpiece of filmmaking. But you're rabid about it, and I thought I had heard everything there was to hear, read everything there was to read. It's charming. It's so informative, and I think, I'd heard sort of around the periphery about how tough it was on Spielberg, but Spielberg is very open about and candid about how profoundly difficult it was for him.
Yeah, a lot of this movie is based on a new interview with Spielberg. And then you get all this great
ascot.
Get all this great behind the scenes footage of filming at Martha's Vineyard, the local citizenry. A lot of them wound up in the film. And then the cast back behind the scenes stuff backstage with Robert Shaw, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, all that going on, and the difficulty of adapting the book, and you get his game plan toward paring out what isn't necessary. If you've read the book, there's some subplots there. There's the mafia subplot. There's a subplot with a affair between Hooper and Ellen Brody and all that stuff. Spielberg talks about how you just get down to the heart of it and bring it to the screen. So that's the first part. And then he had to navigate with this mechanical shark, which just kept messing up in the salt water. And it was one of those deals where it turned out to be a good thing because it fueled the fact that they couldn't use it maybe as much as they wanted to, but that turned out great on screen because less is more. And then when you finally saw it, it just terrified you out of your socks, And so he talks about that and how hard it was and how quickly they got 100 days overdue, behind schedule, and times when they really thought they weren't going to get it done. It wasn't going to happen.
Or he was going to get fired.
He was going to get fired. And Richard Dreyfuss admits he thought the thing was not going to happen at all. And then Spielberg talks about, even after it was done and a success, how much of that filmmaking trauma he carried into his further career. It's almost like PTSD.
Yeah.
It was such a trial. So it's fascinating. You are going to learn something. Even if you think like I do, a thing or two, you're going to learn a thing or two. And it's just so much fun.
It is.
And the perfect, like I said, the perfect bow on this month-long celebration of the birthday.
Yeah, it's fun also, I think, to see other great filmmakers talking about what a great movie this is. That was really fun as well. I always love that. And the filmmakers who were inspired to become filmmakers because of Jaws. I love to see that too.
Yeah, you see people like J.J. Abrams and Steven Soderbergh and Guillermo del Toro, and of course Quentin Tarantino. He's been on the record about his reverence for Jaws. And actors, Emily Blunt, people like that, on and on and on. People have such great respect and love for this movie. It's become such a cultural icon. Now there's just so much merch, and everybody's been having fun with this 50th anniversary.
We have a lunchbox.
We have a lunchbox. It's just been a blast. It has been a blast to see this movie turn 50 years old, and people just love it. And this is a great dive into the movie and into things that you probably don't know. And again, it's only an hour and a half. I'd like him to come out with part 2. But right now, part 1 is on, again, it's on National Geographic Channel. It's on Disney Plus and Hulu. We loved it. Jaws at 50, the definitive inside story.
Next in theaters, a film that follows a man as he joins a sleep trial that allows him to rebuild his life with his girlfriend who died in an accident through the use of lucid dreams. It's called Daniela Forever.
We were excited about this one because we love Nacho Vigalondo, who made Time Crimes a few years ago. If you haven't seen it, just give yourself that gift.
Man.
And then he made Colossal with Anne Hathaway a few years ago. So he just makes fascinating, weird movies, and we were excited to see this one.
Yeah, that was Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis.
That's right.
Yeah, and in both of those movies, he messes with these alternative timelines and alternative realities. And that's sort of the theme here as well, although it's a little more lighthearted and more of a romance. This stars Henry Golding, and I got to get the Beatrice Grano, who I think was on a season of White Lotus.
Right.
And they're a couple, and they meet in Spain, and then they become a couple, and she is killed in an accident. And while he's navigating his grief, he gets the opportunity to take part in this trial, this sleep experiment trial, where he can basically relive his life with her through lucid dreams, through drugs, through sleep, and through suggestion of the type of dreams that he can have. He can go in there and basically be awake and live a dream while he's doing this. And so he does that. And of course, as they don't, things don't go as planned. And what becomes fascinating is when you get past the romance of it and how glad he is to be back with his love, as it goes along, the question here becomes, does he love her enough to realize that maybe her best life doesn't include him? Or is he going to manipulate the situation so that her life will continue to include him? And that is the central question here. And the movie doesn't shy away from it, and it doesn't shy away from the fact that maybe he's not a Prince Charming that we thought he was, which is different from the movie that this reminded us of.
About time. And we are going to upset a lot of people right now because it's funny. I was in a car trip recently, and the two women in the car with me, that was both of them favorite movie of all time. And the one was like 30 and the other was 25. I reviewed that movie when it came out, and I hated it. Because regardless of the many touching moments and the incredible performances in it, the central conceit was this man who kept screwing up and upsetting the girl that he wanted to date got a chance to just go back in time and try again without her ever knowing it. So manipulating her without her knowing it so that he could wind up with her. I found everything about it repugnant. And what I love about this movie is that it's the same kind of idea, except it's not selling it to you as good, as wholesome, because it's not romantic.
That's right.
It's devious and horrible.
Yeah, it's a question that the movie leaves, as many movies do, open-ended and for discussion. Now, he also has fun with, Vigalondo, has fun with leading you, making it easy to tell when he's dreaming and when he's in reality. He plays with the aspect ratio and with the resolution too. So you won't be like, well, I thought he was dreaming here. It's going to be pretty clear. But that becomes the central question at the end of this romance and in these dreams, and the kind of reality that he's trying to manufacture that isn't really reality, but this lucid dream. So while it's fascinating, I don't think it quite gets there in terms of the kind of memorable nature that the other two films that we mentioned have.
That maybe Henry Golding just doesn't have the range.
You know, Henry Golding is very handsome.
He's
a very handsome man.
He is, yeah.
I think sometimes, especially in a movie like this that requires him to carry half of it, if not 3/4 of it, and some emoting that maybe is a little bit outside his range. He's not horrible by any means, but I mean, I think he comes across better in maybe some smaller parts. But I think what he doesn't do, though, which is appreciative, is make this a vanity type of performance. Even though he is quite handsome, you don't get the feeling that he's posing, which is appreciated, or the fact that he's trying to make this guy more of a good guy than we start to see that he is. So there are interesting questions here. I still would put this, I would say Time Crimes and Colossal succeeded in the vision a little bit better than this one does, but it's still interesting. And it's still, I think, is this one in theaters?
Yes.
Yeah, this one's in theaters too. So, and if you're a fan of Nachos, as we are, it's worth checking out. But it's maybe comes in a little bit of a step behind the other two. It's thinking big and can't quite get there in the end, but still fascinating. And that is in theaters, and it's called Daniela Forever.
Next in theaters, a father and son who identify as sovereign citizens, a group of anti-government extremists, find themselves in a standoff with a chief of police that sets off a manhunt in Sovereign.
Nick Offerman, who I think we're used to seeing a lot of times in comedic roles. Yeah, he's not comedic here at all. Not at all. It's he is a sovereign citizen. You may have heard of that movement. And this is based on a tragic real-life incident that occurred, a shootout between a father and son, sovereign citizens, with police in Arkansas years ago. And the son here is played by Jacob Tremblay, who we love. And boy, he's growing up fast. You would not, if you were watching this movie and didn't know it was him, you may not recognize him. He's got a buzz cut, and he's gotten so tall so fast that he's so angular.
Bony.
Yeah, he's a young man. He's a young man now. You know, we just saw him in The Life of Chuck, and he looks even taller and more angular now. But so the performances are fine, and all around it's a well-crafted film. I think it's the debut for writer-director Christian Swagel. Yeah, and it basically follows this man and his son, and he to make his living, he travels around and he gives these seminars on being a sovereign citizen and how you don't have to do things like pay the bank for your house. They keep knocking on his door, and his son has to go talk to the police or the bankers or whatever about how they're going to repossess and kick him out of their house. And then when he tells his dad, you got to do something about this, they have no jurisdiction. And he cites all these crazy laws that he knows about and these crazy ways to interpret the law that he sure is right, how they're not going to do that. And so he goes around to these seminars, and people pay him to teach them how they can do that too and get out of their situation. So it's interesting to give you a look into that movement, which is very real and sometimes, as in this case, very violent, which is fascinating. But what was the most interesting to me about this movie is how Swigel contrasts what Nick Offerman is passing down to his son as the way to live. And then on the other side, you've got the police chief, played by Dennis Quaid, and his son, who is going to be a rookie policeman. And they're on you can probably guess, a collision course with this man and his son. And you've got the two men passing down certain beliefs and certain ways of living, each to their sons. And they're very different, but in some ways they're not that different. And I found that to be very fascinating about this film. What's also interesting is smaller moments where you see early on, that Nick Offerman's seminars are quite crowded. And as it goes along, they're not so crowded anymore, which is a nice subtle way of saying, you know what, you can say all these things all you want to, but it doesn't mean that they're true. And when you get in a courtroom, you're going to spout off all these jurisdictions and how you have no right to admit, well, you know what? Sometimes
handcuffs are handcuffs.
Yeah. And it doesn't quite work that way. And unfortunately, with a lot of these sovereign citizens, who still, the ones that there are some I mean, that go out and just live in the hills and try to not have any contact with anybody. But the ones that still want to be in society but make their own rules, it hasn't always worked out too well, and sometimes worked out very tragically, as in this case. So it's certainly not a happy ending, but it doesn't. It gives you a small window into these beliefs, and of course, the root cause is a bigger discussion. What they're really angry about is a bigger discussion. But taking this one tragic incident and making it, I think, about these two different relationships between fathers and sons is an interesting way to approach it. I don't think I loved it, but I think it was done very well. The performances are very well played. And I think it's if this is the debut, and I think it is for the writer-director, I think it's a good start to a good filmmaking career. I think it shows some very good instincts about storytelling with this one. And this one is it's both day and date. Yeah. So it's in theaters and also available on Prime.
For a premium price.
Oh, it's premium price. Okay. But also in theaters. Mm-hmm. And it's called Sovereign.
Next up, Abraham Van Helsing moves his two sons to the United States in an attempt to escape their past in Abraham's Boys.
This is an adaptation of a Joe Hill short story by filmmaker Natasha Kermani, who made Lucky a few years ago, and you reviewed that one.
Yeah.
And she has a knack with small scale films, small cast. They wind up looking and feeling bigger than they are. I think the biggest concern with this movie, it looks great. It's like a horror Western. And the main character is Abraham Van Helsing, played by Titus Welliver. You might not know that name, but you'll probably recognize his face and his blue eyes, and his two sons.
And Joe Hill, we should say, if you don't know, is Stephen King's son.
Yes.
And he also wrote
Black Phone,
the short story there. Yeah.
Horns.
Yeah.
And so it's possible, absolutely, to turn a short story into a feature-length film and to do it well. But it is hard because usually you have to add filler, and it is a lot easier to take something away than to add something to it. But they did it really well with Black Phone. Phone, they added a whole B story that didn't exist in the short story and was really good and enhanced the A story. And so it can certainly be done. Horns also, I like that movie to a certain degree as well. I don't dislike this film, but what it adds, while on the one hand, gives the film outright horror elements, whereas Joe Hill's short story is very much sort of theater of the mind. This one, there's blood, right? And there's tense moments and there's supernatural or, bloody gore moments, which I liked. But they also, in the short story, Mina Harker, she is a distant memory from the older son, remembers his mother. The younger son does not even remember his mother, but she's actually in this story. And that muddies what the film's mystery is about. It really does. Whereas in the short story, it's very straightforward. So I don't think it works as well as it ought to. I do think it looks great. And I think a lot of the added elements work really well to enhance the paranoia, right? Abraham Van Helsing has moved his family into like remote California in sort of this paranoid, isolated move. But from their farm, you can see where the railroad is coming. So first of all, there are railroad people. So that's more victims. But also it does enhance the sense of paranoia. The movie looks great. And a lot of the performances are really solid too. But the older boy, Brady Hepner, the movie really requires a lot out of this character and doesn't give him a lot of dialogue to do it. So it's one of those performances that would have to express a great deal physically. And I just don't think Hepner is up to it. He's very sort of pouty and stiff. And just all the way together, it's not a disaster. It's just not nearly as good as the short story. And it's not as good as I had hoped it would be.
Mm-hmm. Especially after coming off like you mentioned, Black Phone, and how much of a successful adaptation that is. Because you're right, it's hard. Filler, filler often comes off as filler. Yeah, that's just what it is. But if you can actually enhance it, as Black Phone did, that is tough to do.
It is.
Yeah, Abraham's Boys is in theaters.
It is
in theaters now.
Let's go to Shudder next for a film that follows a realtor who must survive a night of terror when a deranged client shows up at her open house. It's called Push.
Shudder.
Yeah. Here's another one that does a lot with very little, because the 75% of this film is two people. You've got a little bit of a backstory in the opening, and then you've got sort of this more populated closing act. But most of the movie is this woman, widowed, very, very pregnant. She's immigrated from Mexico, and she is in the sort of very wooded, isolated area of Michigan. She's a realtor, and she's trying to sell this big estate property with no one around for miles, which they show, the cinematography points out very well how isolated this property is. And it's also massive. And it's 1993, conveniently enough, because there's no cell phones.
Once again.
Yeah. And nobody shows up to this open house. And just as she's going to leave, one guy arrives. And it is an interesting, right there, I think that right there is a great seed for a horror movie. How many times we put ourselves into perilous situations without thinking about it. And that is, of course, with this woman who is 9 months pregnant, nobody around for miles and miles and miles. You know, she has put herself into the situation where this strange man has appeared at her door. And there is a lot of the camera work is often very beautiful. It just sort of haunts, these halls. It floats around, and the setting is also beautiful and very spooky and reminiscent of some of the great haunted house movies. And I think that, and there's a realty sign as you first get there, right? It's on Craven Road, and the realtor is Juan Hitch Realty. So you've got, Wes Craven, James Wan, Hitchcock. Each one has had their own sort of home invasion / haunted house film. But I actually think that is one of the problems with this movie, is that the film can't seem to make up its mind where it's trying to go with it. Is it trying to make you think that it's going to be this brutal break-in like Last House on the Left, or is it all in her mind like Rebecca, or is the house really haunted like The Conjuring? It can't seem to, by the time it finally decides, thematically the movie is kind of all over the place, and so it doesn't really leave the mark that it ought to. And I think Act 3 sort of in particular devolves a bit. So it's got some great segments, but it doesn't hold up altogether, I don't think.
Yeah, this one is on Shudder, and it is called Push.
Next up, there have been cases of mysterious disappearances of ocean visitors. The victims were eventually found dead with signs of severe injuries to their bodies resembling a vicious shark attack in Hotspring Sharkattack.
Shark movies, they will never, ever go away. And you know who we have to thank for that,
That's
of
right.
course, and that is Jaws.
That's right.
And this movie certainly does not shy away from those inspirations.
Oh, no. Our friend Matt Weiner reviewed this one for us for MaddWolf.com and points to how openly this movie does homage at first to Jaws, but eventually it just feels like, because it's very much a comedy, this movie, so it just eventually feels like a lampooning of Jaws. It's from writer director Mirahitu Inoue, and it is this small town, sort of a big tourist hub because of their hot springs, their natural hot springs, and there are sharks there. There are sharks now. And we're not going to talk about how they got there. They eventually explain to you it doesn't really matter. All of it is nonsense. And eventually they, the special effects, the shark effects are ridiculous, very openly, clearly ridiculous. And part of what saves it for a long time is how, like the reverence that the actors seem to have for their roles and their dialogue. And it's a nice offset for the ridiculousness of the film. And then there are, like, late in the movie, some sort of more whimsical elements added to it that seemed better fitting with the overall tone. It's just this far away from being like a throwaway mid-afternoon sci-fi movie, like on cable.
Yeah.
So, I think, I know Matt had higher hopes for it. I think we all just thought maybe this will be nutty fun, and it not quite.
And somehow it's in. I thought this was
theaters.
I thought this was going to be a streamer all day,
No.
But it's in some select theaters.
Yeah.
I'm sure it won't be long before it's streaming. But check out Matt's full review. Check out Matt's full review, and you can find that at MaddWolf.com for Hotspring Sharkattack.
And a documentary that explores Marlee Matlin's life as a groundbreaking performer in Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore.
Oh boy, well, Rachel Willis reviewed this for us at MaddWolf.com, and she gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. Yeah. She loved it.
She loved it, and it's from filmmaker Shoshana Stern, who is also deaf, and the film does not shy away from that. It's in sign language, and you are reading the film as it goes along. And one of the things that Rachel pointed out is that only enhances the story being told, because as an audience, especially particularly a hearing audience, we are in the position of very many deaf people at the movies or really anywhere in life. Whereas if you're not reading those captions, you don't know what's going on. You're not being included in the conversation. And that was really, I think, the main theme of what Matlin was talking about in her career, is that as an actor, she was not being included in the conversation. And there were people who were in the documentary say, we don't know how to write for a deaf actor. And a lot of it is about her performances and her acting. A lot of it is about her activism, and some fascinating things that I did not know that happened because of Marlee Matlin. So it's one of those movies, as Rachel points out, there's not a dull moment in this documentary. And 4.5 stars.
Yeah. So check out her review. It's up now at MaddWolf.com. But this one also out in select theaters. Another one that I expected to be mainly a streamer, and I'm sure it will get there again, just like Hotspring Sharkattack, get there soon. But right now, you can check it out in theaters, and that is documentary called Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore. Speaking of not being alone, is it Daniel time?
You know what? I didn't send me the link.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's on me.
Okay. We will get in with Daniel.
Oh my God.
And the lobby is empty.
The lobby is empty. That's
week.
My fault.
Well, that'll mean 2 weeks of news and notes from the studios next week, and we'll catch up with Daniel then. In the meantime, let us know what you thought about the movies this week, especially Superman. Lots of opinions. Lots of opinions. Some of them are worthy. Some of them are a little misguided. But no, if you want to keep the conversation going, we love that. You can find us easily on all the socials at MaddWolf Columbus. And in the meantime,
what do we got next week?
Oh, I totally forgot.
Smurfs
next week.
Yeah.
Now here's another case where I don't like the Smurfs.
No.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember when my twin sisters were little, and that's all they wanted to watch, and it just annoyed the heck out of me. Don't care for the Smurfs.
No.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Also, I know what you did last summer.
The reboot there, and Eddington. I've heard a lot about that. That one seems very interesting.
No, Ari Aster, yeah.
Yeah.
To a Land Unknown.
Also, Sherry and Lamb Chop.
Yeah.
Remember that the puppet?
Yep.
And Sherry Lewis. We'll see about that in that documentary.
Don't Let's Go to the Dog Tonight.
Okay. And one called St. Clair. That's all next week. We're still stuck on this week. Definitely some good things to talk about and see, and just to weigh in on. So do that. Keep in touch. Be well, and until next week, when we will have Daniel back.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Daniel.
She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner.